People are angry, understandably angry. What is going on right now, the indictment of Donald Trump, everything that we saw yesterday is undoubtedly infuriating. But I'm going to be honest with you, I feel so depressed about it. I woke up and I felt so despaired. First thing I did was I looked at the news, I looked at all the coverage, looked at what everybody was saying, all of the analyses, and I just thought, I want to turn my phone off and I want to go away, right? I think that is how a lot of Americans feel. You can feel angry, you can feel frustrated, but there is also this overwhelming sadness with this understanding that we are in fact losing our country. There's no way to sugarcoat it, right? I feel that we have to be honest and actually take a look at where we are and assess what is going to happen in the future, right? The gloves are completely off. This has never happened. This is now America has just become a banana republic. And there are a lot of takes on what happened, and you know the details. Every single person is talking about this, obviously. First and foremost, one of the biggest things, the glaring obvious omission here, is that within the indictment, the federal law that Trump allegedly violated is just not listed. They don't care. They're like, I don't even tell you what you did wrong. It doesn't really, we need to just first indict you to figure out what it is that you did wrong, what federal law was violated. And also, if it was a federal law that was violated, why is Alvin Bragg, who is a state district attorney, bringing about the charges? None of it makes any sense because none of it has to in a banana republic. I can't confirm this. Eric Trump stated that they spent $200 million on security last night in New York City. What we can confirm is that they had to deploy 38,000 officers for this indictment and this arraignment. And so they're just willing to spend this much money while criminals run amok in New York City, while people are being killed every single day, while they are releasing people that are committing real crimes, real violent crimes. Alvin Bragg is ignoring those individuals because he basically understands that he has one job, and his job is to get Trump. That is why he was elected. That was his promise when he was a candidate. Elect me and I will get Trump. And who did he take money from? Of course, George Soros. We always hear George Soros's name. And a few people are really willing to do a deep dive on him because they fear being called anti-Semitic because he hides behind his Jewish identity. And it's interesting that he hides behind his Jewish identity because he is not himself explicitly supportive of Jews. If you look at the way that he spends his money. In fact, he is explicitly anti-Israel, which is curious. It's very curious. To be clear, Soros-backed groups have spent $40 million to elect 75 progressive prosecutors over the last decade. Okay, that means that 1 in 5 Americans now live in areas that are covered by his criminal justice reformers. And I'm putting criminal justice reformers in air quotations because they are not really reforming anything. Obviously, what they are doing is they are releasing criminals onto the street. Why does George Soros want to fund the destruction of America? Does that make sense? Does it make sense for somebody who has found so much success in their life to dedicate his life? Literally, how old is he? He's so old, right? He should just be living on an island enjoying all of his wealth. Instead, he is committed to fostering the end of America. That is the truth. And so we need to ask questions. Who is George Soros? Well, officially, don't forget he controls an entire network of fact checkers, but he wants you to know that he is just a Jewish boy. He was a Jewish boy, who grew up in Nazi-occupied Hungary. And to survive the war, he had to live for a time with a Hungarian officer who was tasked with inventorying the possessions in homes where Jews had been forced to leave. So he doesn't deny this fact, but this was to survive. To survive, he was with a Hungarian officer who would go into the homes of Jewish people who were forced to flee and inventory their items for Nazis. Here is a clip of George Soros discussing that experience, which you would think was deeply troubling to him as a young Jewish boy. But take a listen.
My understanding is that you went out with this protector of yours who swore that you were his adopted godson.
Yes.
Went out, in fact, and helped in the confiscation of property from the Jews.
That's right. Yes.
mean, that sounds like an experience that would send lots of people to the psychiatric couch for many, many years. Was it difficult?
Not at all. Not at all. Maybe as a child you don't see the connection, but it created no problem at all.
No feeling of guilt?
No.
He's smiling. Look at that clip. He's smiling and acknowledging that he felt no guilt. He's saying, well, I was a child, so this didn't really mean anything to me. It means he didn't really associate himself as a Jew. He just was like, this is just kind of what I'm doing. I'm a child and I'm here and I'm assisting this officer in inventorying Jewish people's belongings. Okay, so that's really strange. Here's another clip of Soros talking about how he is building an empire to replace the Soviet empire. Take a listen.
When the Soviet Union, the Soviet Empire collapsed, and as the empire collapsed, I moved in and picked up the pieces. First in Hungary in 1984, and then Poland in 87, China in 87 as well. So this is how the Soros Empire was replacing the Soviet Empire.
He sounds almost giddy talking about that. I'm just building the Soros Empire to replace the Soviet Empire. The Soviet Empire, what a strange thing. He is very obviously allegiant to the Eastern Hemisphere, and he has a lot of detest for the Western Hemisphere. He is funding its collapse. He's been allowed to fund its collapse. He is buying and paying for politicians to do his bidding. So what are his version of events? How does a young Jewish boy who wants you to believe, according to his fact checkers, he was very scared, even though in his own words he was not, he does not feel any guilt about what he did. How does somebody come out of that experience, come out and call yourself a survivor of the Nazi occupation? And how do you come out of that hating America? That's my question. How do you come out of it saying, okay, right, these are your liberators, your great liberators, they're the Americans, the Western Hemisphere, he should be in love with us. Instead, he wants to see our destruction. He has become successful at that. Make no mistakes. You have to tether yourself to reality. In fact, last night, and nobody is talking about this because most people are rightfully possessed with Trump's indictment, but last night in Wisconsin, another Soros-funded judge was elected to the Supreme Court. He's having tremendous success all across the United States. The outlook is bleak. We need to win Wisconsin in order for us to win the 2024 election. So while everyone is focused in New York, they are still dedicated to all of these elections that are taking place across the United States. The Democrats have built a machine, and the Republicans have not. The RNC has failed us. That is the truth. They are not paying attention to these races. They are not spending the money where they need to be spending the money. Trump last night, I think, did a really good job summarizing where we are at in this country. And again, the outlook is bleak, but it is honest, and we should hear him in his own words. He gave this speech at Mar-a-Lago following his arraignment. Take a listen.
Our economy is crashing. Inflation is out of control. Russia has joined with China. Can you believe that? Saudi Arabia has joined with Iran. China, Russia, Iran and North Korea have formed together as a menacing and destructive coalition. Would have never happened if I were your president. Would never have happened. Nor would Russia attacking Ukraine have happened. All of those lives would be saved. All of those beautiful cities would be standing. Our currency is crashing and will soon no longer be the world standard, which will be our greatest defeat, frankly, in 200 years. There will be no defeat like that. That will take us away from being even a great power.
He is so correct there. The United States dollar, these are things that are happening right now, is going to no longer be the global standard. It's exactly true. That is the intended result, I believe, in pushing Russia into the arms of China. All of these things, you ask questions, why are we doing this? Why are we forcing Russia to want to develop an alliance with China to survive? they're in an existential crisis. Why is the entire Western Hemisphere said, we're not going to do business with you? So what is naturally happening is people are creating a new world economy, a new global economy, and we are no longer going to be at the center of it. It sounds almost exactly like George Soros's ambitions, the collapse of power in the Western Hemisphere transferred to power in the Eastern Hemisphere. So that's where we are at right now, you guys. No good news, but here is what I'm going to do. I am very interested in George Soros now. Suddenly I'm interested. I am going to buy a book in which somebody has apparently documented his entire life, and I'm going to try to get that individual to come onto this podcast to speak to us extensively about what it is that is motivating him and what his ambitions are, and also his son, because his son has taken over for him, obviously. George Soros is well on in his years, and his son is now taking over and funding all of these projects, funding the collapse of America. So stay tuned. This is just the beginning. Be sure to send me any clips, any past articles, or any past videos that you have of George Soros, because I do not feel threatened by him. I think he is absolute scum, and he should be banned from the United States of America, just like he's banned from his home country of Hungary. And that's all I have to say about that.